The knock came after midnight, sharp and desperate, the kind that slices through sleep and leaves the heart pounding before the mind can catch up. He stood there barefoot on cold tile, the house breathing softly behind him, wondering what kind of trouble could find a man like him at that hour. When he opened the door, he did not know that this small act of kindness would tilt the rest of his life off its careful balance, or that the woman standing under the flickering porch light would be brought back to him by 3 tiny conspirators less than 12 hours later. If stories about kindness, second chances, and unexpected love still mean something to you, take a second right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. You never know who might need a reminder that one good moment can change everything. He had learned to live quietly. Since the accident, his days were measured in school drop-offs, packed lunches, and the steady rhythm of survival. The world had narrowed to 3 identical faces with different souls, triplets born minutes apart and bonded by a shared loss they were too young to fully name. Their mother's absence lived in the corners of the house, in the empty chair at the table, in the way he folded laundry late at night just to keep his hands busy. He was a good father because he had to be, because love demanded it, but the cost was a loneliness that pressed in when the lights went out. That night, the storm had been coming since sunset. Wind rattled the windows, rain stitched the sky together, and he had finally drifted into a shallow sleep on the couch. The knock pulled him back into a life he thought he understood. On the porch stood a woman soaked through, hair plastered to her face, eyes wide with the kind of fear that comes from being stranded. Her car had died 2 houses down, phone drowned by rain, and the storm had erased the road into a sheet of darkness. He did not think about danger or propriety. He thought about the way his mother had taught him that doors should open when someone is in trouble. He let her in, handed her a towel, made tea the way he always did when nerves needed calming. The house felt different with another adult inside it, like the walls had leaned in to listen. They spoke in low tones about nothing and everything, about broken cars and broken plans, about how storms have a way of forcing people to stop running. He noticed the way she looked around at the family photos, the way her shoulders softened when she realized she was safe. When the rain finally slowed and a tow truck came, she left with a quiet gratitude that lingered after the door closed. He went back to sleep thinking it was just another strange moment in a life full of them. Morning came loud and early. The triplets were already awake, buzzing with secrets, moving through the kitchen with the synchronized chaos only siblings like them could manage. They had learned too much too soon, had grown up watching their father carry the weight of the world without complaint. Children see things adults think are invisible. They saw the way his smile faded faster these days, the way he lingered at the doorway when they left for school, as if bracing himself for an emptier house. They loved him fiercely, and in their own earnest, impulsive way, they had decided to fix what they thought was broken. They had found her online weeks earlier, a local volunteer who organized community drives and helped neighbors in need. Her smile felt safe to them, her life full but not crowded. They sent messages they should not have sent, wrote descriptions of their father that were equal parts embarrassing and true. They arranged a meeting at a small cafe near the park, believing with the absolute faith of children that good people belong together if given the chance. They never mentioned the storm, never imagined the threads already connecting the 2 lives they were trying to tie. He agreed to the blind date because saying no felt harder than saying yes. It had been years since he had sat across from someone new, years since he had allowed himself to be seen as anything other than a parent. He told himself it was for the kids, that an hour of awkward conversation was a small price to pay for their hope. As he walked into the cafe, he rehearsed politeness, lowered expectations, and prepared to endure. Then he saw her. Recognition moved slowly, like dawn breaking through fog. The curve of her smile, the steadiness of her gaze, the faint mark on her wrist from where the tow truck driver had helped her into the cab. The night folded into the morning, and the coincidence felt too large to be accidental. She recognized him too, surprise giving way to something warmer, something like relief. Neither of them said what they were thinking, but the air between them hummed with the knowledge that life had already introduced them once, quietly, without permission. They talked for hours. Not the careful small talk of strangers, but the deeper sharing of people who have already crossed a line together. He spoke about the kids, about learning to braid hair and sign permission slips with a hand that still shook some days. He spoke about grief not as a dramatic wound, but as a constant companion, a presence that teaches you how fragile joy can be. She listened without trying to fix him, without turning his pain into a story about her. When she shared her own life, it was with honesty about disappointments and resilience, about choosing service over safety and finding meaning in small acts that ripple outward. The challenges were still there, heavy and real. He worried about moving too fast, about letting someone close to the children who had already lost so much. He worried about himself, about whether he remembered how to be more than a father. She carried her own fears, shaped by past attempts that had not worked, by the knowledge that loving someone with a family meant loving the possibility of loss again. They did not rush. They let trust build the way it should, slowly, deliberately, with room for doubt and growth. The triplets watched from the sidelines, trying to look innocent and failing spectacularly. They saw the way laughter returned to their home, how evenings stretched instead of collapsed. They noticed how their father stood taller, how he slept more deeply. The woman who had been a stranger became a presence that felt earned, not imposed. She showed up for school plays and scraped knees, for quiet dinners and loud weekends. She respected the space where their mother still lived in memory, never trying to replace what could not be replaced. Time did what time does best when people are brave enough to stay. The house filled with new traditions, layered over old ones. The pain did not disappear, but it softened, integrated into a larger story that made room for hope. He learned that opening a door once could teach him how to open his heart again. She learned that sometimes the safest place to land is the one you never planned to visit. Near the end of that year, on a night much like the first, rain tapping gently at the windows, he stood in the kitchen watching the triplets laugh with a woman who had chosen them without obligation. The fear that had once ruled him loosened its grip. He understood then that love does not erase loss, but it can honor it by continuing forward. If this story has touched your heart, if it reminded you that even in the quietest lives something extraordinary can still happen, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps stories like this reach the people who need them most. And before we reach the ending, leave a comment below telling us whether you believe one small act of kindness can truly change a life. The night he opened the door, he thought he was just helping a stranger. In truth, he was answering a future he did not know how to ask for. The triplets, with their unshakable faith and reckless love, had simply helped him see it.